The recording started here as well. All right. With us today is Jacob Blackett with SyndicationPro, and he's going to be covering with us today about raising capital online and kind of making things a little bit more efficient when we're doing that. And so, Jacob, I want you to kind of get us started and talk to us a little bit about you and your background. I know you're probably going to cover some of this stuff as you're going through some of your PowerPoint presentation that you've prepared for today for the webinar, but kind of give us a little bit of a background about who you are and why you're a good person to be speaking about this.
Yeah, sure, Dan. So my experience when it comes to real estate syndication is that over the last 5 years or so, I've actually done 15 real estate syndications as a lead sponsor. And so I got started back in 2010, back in college when I was a sophomore, actually a freshman in college. Started learning about fix and flips. I was studying finance and entrepreneurship, and my university had nothing on real estate. So kind of intrigued me when I saw an infomercial late one night about fixing and flipping single family homes. And so that was my entry into real estate. I ended up doing some fix and flips while I was in college. And when I graduated, I was faced with the choice of continue doing fix and flips or get a financial job and work up the ladder, potentially do investment banking or private equity or something. And I really liked the ability to control my time. And that's what I got from the fix and flip model. So I went ahead and my senior year, I maxed out my student loans just to get additional working capital. And after I graduated, I went straight into fix and flips and started my business from there. After doing hundreds of fix and flip properties, I got tired of trying to build my own portfolio of single family homes on the side. Basically what was happening is I was making great money. I was paying a ton in taxes, and I found it really difficult to try to build up this portfolio of rental properties. And so that's where I started thinking that why don't I, if I could, rather than own maybe 25 or 50 properties 100% by myself, what if I created a scenario where I could keep 30% ownership of 1,000 properties? And so that was my first step into real estate syndication. Started with single family homes. Actually, I would put 10 single family homes into a portfolio owned by one LLC, and then I would get investors involved to replace my cash that I had in those deals. I would manage them. I would get about 20 to 30% ownership when all was said and done, and then I would just rinse and repeat. Did that about 10 times, and then progressed into multifamily, and that's what we focus on 100% now is multifamily investments. From the very beginning with the syndications, we decided back in 2013 to do our syndications online. So it was before there was any type of investor portal or software. Really, I was looking at some of the very early real estate crowdfunding websites and thought how neat it would be to raise our capital online for our deals. And so we built out a website. Took about a year to get through the full build and to do our first syndication on the website. But we've really loved doing the capital raising online, so much so that in January of 2019 of this year, we went and launched SyndicationPro, which takes that online platform and makes it available for other syndicators to use, much like you may have seen investor portals out there. Ours, of course, gives you an investor portal, and then it also gives you much more in terms of a CRM and everything you need to manage your syndication. So I spend half my time in the trenches doing asset management and looking for the next multifamily investment and working with my own investors. The other half of my time on the software company providing this software and online solution for my colleagues and other syndicators.
Well, and it's interesting because this is going to be a great webinar because you kind of know my thoughts on the investor portals and various things like that. And our company does not use one, but we've definitely considered them and have our own thoughts on them. So I'll kind of be playing the devil's advocate role, I guess, if you will, and throw a bunch of questions out at you and stuff like that as you're going through. But go ahead and find that little share button on your screen there, Jacob. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and have you go through the presentation here about raising capital online. And then I'll be here in the background. And for those of you who have questions, if you want to submit those, you can do that as well. And so I'll turn it over to you and let you take it from here.
All right, perfect. Can you give me a confirmation from your end that all is shared and looking good?
Everything is looking great.
All right, perfect. So at the end of this presentation here, I'll go ahead and have my contact information as well, but we've got it here. And like Dan has mentioned, the topic that I am approaching here is raising capital online. So what I've already talked about a little bit is myself. So I own and operate 3 companies currently. They're Holdfolio, which is online real estate syndication company. 610 Management is the property management company and construction company that manages all of our assets. And SyndicationPro is that software company where we actually get this online platform into the hands of other syndicators. So I've done 15 successful online syndications, currently manage just over 10 million in investor capital, and that's across a portfolio of about 480 units. I have 295 current investors, and I've registered over 3,000 leads to our website, holdfolio.com. So I have experience as well as a capital partner. So the 15 online syndications, all those were syndications where I was finding the deal, my team was doing the management, asset management, and I have also brought capital to other people's deals as well, so can kind of speak on both of those fronts. At a glance here in terms of where this presentation is going, the first thing I'll be going over is the funnel. So this really has to do with getting interest from an investor's perspective. So this is getting investors interested, capturing leads, capturing people who might potentially invest with you, working those leads to a status of verification. So you may have cold leads that you then get to know and develop a relationship with. So now they're verified leads. And eventually the end of the funnel there is that they invest with you and they become investors. So we'll talk about the communication, some reservation processes that we use. We'll talk about when we get the deal, how that translates into an offering memorandum, how we set it up online, and then how we treat this in terms of launching a webinar and then taking investments on a first come, first served basis, and of course the management. So everything on this presentation is from my direct experience. So there are certainly people on many different aspects here do things differently, have done things differently. This is not necessarily an aggregated presentation based upon hundreds of syndicators. This is all based upon my experience, syndications I've done. So in terms of the funnel, the way this funnel breaks down is that the top of this funnel is traffic. So some of the basically some of the ways that we've gotten traffic is, of course, number one, through our personal network, people that we know and friends of those people. So of course, when you're putting together an investor base, you always start with the kind of closest network, and then we of course meet people at events. So this might be local networking events, might be bigger kind of regional or even national events. We also produce content to help investors learn about syndication, and so these are blogs, a lot of blog posts, And then we haven't in the last 5 or 6 years, but we have also had experience doing paid advertising. So Google pay-per-clicks, banner ads, all with the idea of driving all of these people, all of these lookers to our website. And so I'll touch base on the website on the next slide here, but really the idea here is that you're getting all of this traffic to your website. Your website is going to be able to convert visitors to leads. And then these leads, you're going to be able to create a relationship with these people. They'll become verified. And then at the end here, they'll become investors. And really that's when the trust is ultimately created. So in terms of creating or converting visitors, so here's a couple looks at our website. The key elements that you want to integrate into your website is messaging. So you want your messaging up front. And in my perspective, for us, our website serves one purpose. And the purpose is to convert a visitor to a lead. And we're targeting investors. So our message when you land on our website is very clear: invest with us in multifamily real estate. And the button just below that is view investments. So there's our message. There's the call to action, which you want call to actions. You want buttons that are saying something like get started today, view investments. You want messaging that will create a sense of urgency and reward. So we also want to integrate into the website benefits. So what are the benefits of investing with you? If you have testimonials, you'll want to get those incorporated into your website. This will help you with market validation. So those testimonials, the track record. If you'll notice on our site that we have a media tab and a blog tab. So media, that's going to be any type of podcast or webinar, any event or news article that we've been featured in. That's going to help prospective investors get to know you a little bit better, see that you're out there, and help validate you as a serious option to invest with. We also list our track record and frequently asked questions. So as an investor is moving through our website, they can very easily understand the messaging. They can understand who we are. They can get that market validation, and ultimately they have those call to actions to become in your database. So once someone goes ahead and clicks view investments or get started today, they're going to create an account. And when they create an account, part of this process after they create their account is we ask them to schedule a call with us. So this is a brief introduction call. We make this easy to set up. So here we can see that there's a video here, schedule a call. We took, I believe it's about one to 2 minutes, and we simply described talked about a little bit about our company, talked a little bit about why we need to get a call scheduled with the investor. You can see the messaging here is that because of our unique partnership model, a quick phone call is required before we can give you access to our current investment opportunities. Please schedule a call at your earliest convenience. And then we also offer an option to get with us if they don't see a convenient time. But when they click schedule call, that's going to go to a Calendly link. So calendly.com. You can actually set this up for free, but it's going to create automation so that that investor can go ahead and find a time on your calendar and get that event scheduled. And really, this introduction call we've done to date over 2,000 introduction calls with investors. And early on, we really tried to craft a pitch. We tried to focus on telling the investor who we were, and we tried to build rapport, and we tried to really focus on building ourselves up and maximizing the opportunity to make an impression on the investor at this point. And these calls on average were about 30 minutes or more. And what we found as we've done thousands of these calls is that it's really should be focused on three things. And there's really no reason why a call would last more than 15 minutes. The first part of the call is to get them, and this is how I start off every call. Purpose of this call is to get you caught up, have an opportunity to get you caught up with what we're doing as a company. I'd like to answer any initial questions you might have. And then I'd also like to learn about you as an investor. So if you don't mind, why don't you go ahead and start by telling me about your experience and investing experience, your background. And then really you focus on the investor. You let them tell them about themselves. You may ask some questions based on what they're telling you. Maybe look for a little bit of opportunity to build rapport. And then after you understand kind of where they're at and what they're looking to achieve with their investing, then you can go ahead and put that back on them in terms of, well, I'll tell you what initial questions do you have? And really we focus on their questions. We address their questions as accurately and concisely as possible. And then really from there going forward, there's no need to provide more talk or more background or more to that call. That dialogue and that process works really well. So after we've had this call, then we have the relationship started, and we can go ahead and take that unverified lead, someone who maybe we've never talked to before. Now they become verified and they're part of our network. So in terms of communication and reservations, we take a pretty simple approach to this. So we try to touch base via email with our contact base at least once per month. We have an investor questionnaire, and this is really just asking them a little bit more about themselves, their experience, their position, readiness, and ability to invest. We have a reservation process. So I'm sure syndicators on this call, you're typically in between deals more often than not. So typically you don't have a deal ready for investment. And so how we nurture these relationships is that when we're in between deals, we don't have an investment open, then we have a reservation, an opportunity for the investor to go ahead and make a reservation. This gives them, the narrative here is that gives them priority in your next deal over those who might not make reservations. You can explain that your investments do fill up quickly, explain that this is non-binding, it's a soft commitment, and it'll also put them on a list for you to make sure that they're kept in the loop and updated. So there's kind of a snippet here of what a reservation might look like. Very easy process. Gives you a list of investors, of people in your network who are pretty serious about investing with you. And we found that there's pretty good conversion rate between those who make reservations and who will actually end up investing with you. So once you do have a deal under contract, what we do is once it's under contract, it's looking good, we'll go ahead and introduce that deal to the contact base. So we'll shoot out an email, for example, that will highlight some of the key points. For example, on this last slide, we might show this summary here in this email. So we're just kind of high level, what's going on, how this is looking to shape up. And then, of course, we have that call to action to make a reservation. So we're always driving that reservation process up until the investment is open. We will try to provide weekly updates as we progress through that due diligence process, which of course is typically a 30 to 45 day process. We'll push people to those reservations, and then once the offering memorandum and investment document set is available, we'll go ahead and publish a first look period. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. Here's some of our typical documents. We'll have frequently asked questions. We'll have a section about the sponsor team. We'll, of course, break down the property, the financials, some of the agreements and disclosure document, operating agreement, investment agreement. All of these are pretty standard in any type of syndication, and a lot of it, the disclosure document, operating agreement, and investment agreement would be provided by the syndication attorney. So in terms of setting this up online, we would upload the key details online. We set up our e-sign templates. So the investment agreement is typically the document that investors will be signing. So we use Sign Now. So we'll go ahead and get those templates set up. And then going back to that first look period is that we're at a place here now. We have all of our documents. We have our reservations. People are intrigued, want to see the details. We'll go ahead and publish those documents, give the investors all the documents and information they need in order to do their due diligence, but we won't accept investments. We'll typically do this for a 2 to 3 day period. What this does is it gives the investors everything they need to do in order to do due diligence on the deal. We'll have a date of when the investment will open. So we typically, ideally would want to open the investment about 3 days after we publish those documents or give those documents out to investors to start reviewing. And we like to go ahead and host a webinar just before we open it. So for example, if we're going to open it for investment at 7 p.m. on Thursday, then we may host a webinar at 6 p.m. On Thursday and publish the investment first come first served rate following that. And so what that does is it gives your investors the opportunity to go ahead and do some due diligence on the deal ahead of the webinar so that they can come with questions. We typically keep the presentation portion of the webinar well under 30 minutes. That way we can spend at least 30 minutes on a Q&A session. And then we can go ahead and publish that investment online and take investments. So when we go ahead and publish that investment, it is first come, first serve. Your investors, they already have the documents. They've already done their due diligence. They've now potentially seen a webinar. And so what we found is that we'll get a lot of investments very quickly, and we'll typically fully fund the syndication within 48 hours. So this is kind of just some snapshots. We do have a 4-step investment process online. So the investors are on our website making these investments through the software. They have a 4-step process. It's completely automated. So you publish it, you sit back, typically address a handful of questions or contacts to investors. And really the offering subscribes itself. The investors just go through this process. And then the final part of this, of course, after you have all your subscriptions, is management. So how we do this is that we provide monthly or quarterly updates. If we're doing monthly updates, this is typically a shorter snippet in terms of how the previous month went. Quarterly updates would be more of a robust update. We go ahead and send out our distributions quarterly to investors via ACH. We provide reports. So one of the most popular reports we provide is just a simple income statement by month. And then we also provide key performance indicators. So we, of course, will provide occupancy. We'll provide a trailing occupancy at the end of the quarter. So how did it look like? How was occupancy month over month so that we can see trends? We'll provide the amount of move-outs, the amount of move-ins. Was there a net loss of tenants? And then we'll look at our budget versus actual. So we'll have budgets on all of our properties. We'll look at how that budget is measuring up against the actual performance. If we're doing improvements, then we'll go ahead and take a look at and make updates for the improvement progress, pictures, videos, if it's applicable. And then we'll take a look if it's a value add deal where we're getting higher rates than in place, then we'll go ahead and take a look at what those new rates, how those are coming out. And then of course the investor ROI. So how's their cash on cash return? Has anything changed to the projections and how that is all looking? So with that, that was a pretty quick and dirty look at how we raise capital. So I think, Dan, certainly I'm more than happy for your listeners to get in touch with me directly. You have my email and my phone number here. If you are in a position where you think you'd be interested in a software like SyndicationPro, then I would certainly be willing to make everyone in this audience a deal in terms of some special pricing as well.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions that I kind of have been writing down here. For those of you who are watching with us live, if you want to go ahead and type in some of your questions here, if you're on the Zoom platform, you can find the Q&A box and type them in there. Or you can, on Facebook Live, you can also do it there as well and just type in a comment, and I'll try to moderate those as well. So with the software here that you're using, it looks very intuitive and very user-friendly for the investor. Where would you say, or do you guys manage, because you said you go from leads to verified leads, do you have an ability within the software to manage the 506B offerings versus the 506C offerings?
Yeah, there are optimizations for each of those. The big difference, of course, between the two is that with a 506B offering, you're really only accepting investments from verified leads. So from that perspective, you never really want to get your 506B deal in sight of people that you don't know. You really want to avoid that general solicitation. So the software does that. The software will manage the visibility to make sure that only verified leads can actually view that investment. And then in the CRM, of course, that breaks down all your verified leads versus unverified. And then from a 506C perspective, that of course is open to accredited investors. You don't have to necessarily worry so much about having previous relationships. But the other point of that is that you have to do a third-party verification. You have to verify their accreditation. So we have little workflows to help you manage, collect those accreditation documents. Once you've reviewed those and verified as accredited, then all these workflows are built into the platform.
Okay, and are they seamless so that it connects with like via an API with the one we use is verifyinvestor.com. So does it integrate with a service like that, or is it a third party thing that you still have to go and get the verification and then you have to go and download it from them and then upload it to the software?
So with the current version, your investor is going to go ahead and upload their verification document. So probably within a 3 to 6 month timeline, we'd be looking at more of an API type integration with Verify Investor. That's of course a very common option.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure about having the separation, I guess, if you will. So how does it in the software? Does it segment or separate the 506B investors versus the 506C? And again, obviously with the 506C, it's not as big of a deal as you could present your 506C offerings to anybody. But right. If you're going to be offering some deals as 506B offerings and some of them as 506C, well, you'd want to make sure that if you hadn't already created a relationship with some of those 506C investors that you maybe have attracted, that you only sent your 506B offerings to those people that you would call it, you say are those verified leads or verified investors.
Yeah, so it's really intuitive. Dan, do you know how to move this? Let's see here. Looks like this is kind of sitting on this thing here. What I was going to do is go ahead and log in.
Yeah, I can see the Zoom login right now. So you want to just pop in your piece.
Yeah, I can go ahead and what I was thinking is I'll just jump into
the little demo.
Yeah, jump into the back end here and show you kind of how that works in terms of managing. I mean, the big part is managing those who you know, and so well, what we can see in the CRM, we have the kind of built out between leads, investors,
Mm-hmm.
and on the leads, we can see that it'll kind of break down the total leads, who's accredited, who's verified, who's unverified, and in terms of ease, if you know someone, then this is the verification. So everyone who's toggled on is verified, is a verified lead who you know and have a relationship with. And then when you do want to go ahead and verify someone, you simply move that toggle over, and now they're verified. And so when it comes time to raising capital, you actually set the visibility on the offering, whether you want all users, just verified users to view, or just current investors even. And so that way in a 506B deal, set that visibility to verified only, and then that way only your verified leads and investors will see that.
That makes sense. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
Yeah.
And that one of the other questions was going to be surrounding the one of the other questions would be surrounding the CRM. So while you're here,
Yeah.
what are some of the features that the CRM that you guys have in your software? How is that structured and built out? So if a new lead comes in, obviously you're going to probably get an email notification saying, hey, there's a new lead that's coming in. And I'm assuming it automatically goes into here, into Syndication Pro as an unverified investor. Is there a list that you can go to that, shows that you can update the information on that investor, about your contacts and notes about them and conversations and, things like that?
Yeah, all those little details are built in. So we can click into any given lead. There's a quick note here. For example, John, if say we're having a phone call and I'm taking notes in terms of the conversation with John here, and then I can go ahead and take that note, get over to his profile. This is that verification. He's already verified, but if he wasn't, I could go ahead and verify him through that process there. And so really everything that you need to manage that relationship. And what is really exciting is version 2 of our platform. It will be released next month. And so that's gonna take all this to the next level in terms of actually registering your email through here, so you can manage all your email communications, and really taking the CRM to the next level. But as it is right now, it's very, very baseline, very functional, kind of everything you need at the baseline. And then from here, we're basically growing up.
Sure. And does it also have the ability to put the expirations of the accreditation status in there as well, so that when you have that next offering, even though they might have been accredited before and verified, you have the expiration date of that document so you know to get it updated?
Yeah, on the all of the accreditation documents, they're uploaded and timestamped so that you can really be sure that everything is updated.
Okay, but it doesn't alert you or anything like that to say that it's outdated, because after 90 days, every 90 days you have to get a new accreditation letter in order to continue to be verified. So I just want to make sure that would be added in there too, or something.
Yeah, so that's a really easy integration, and so I'll get it on the roadmap, Dan.
Good. Glad to be able to provide some additional feedback for you on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was one question that came through from Dennis, said, how would you drive traffic to your site? I'm assuming he's asking that from a standpoint of how would you drive traffic to the site to be able to get those leads in there?
So there's a ton of ways, tons of ways to drive traffic. And what I have here on this slide is what we have experience in. And really it all stems from people hearing about Holdfolio, hearing about your company. And for example, one way it might be that you're at a networking event and you're meeting people, you're handing out your business card, and someone that you met there now has your business card, and they go home and they go to your website. Now they're on your website, they're learning more about you. Something intrigued them about you. And so now That's, most basic example of someone from a networking event. Doing a podcast or a webinar like this, for example, potentially that there's people watching this webinar who might be interested in learning more about Holdfolio. So they may hit holdfolio.com, and now they're learning. So really, there's all these different channels, and Dan, you could, I know that you've had a lot of success as well. So from a driving traffic perspective, I'm sure you could even provide more additional feedback as well. But I think really it's just about finding those channels and getting your name out there, and getting people to go to your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a whole nother, webinar that we could probably launch into about how to attract those investors and drive that traffic. And I think, depending on how Dennis is asking the question, obviously once you have driven traffic to your site, you have these leads, they've been verified, and they're waiting for that next deal. It's about communicating with them and sending them an email. And, does your software send out those mass emails, or does it actually, would you use something like MailChimp or something like that to be able to send out those emails to the investors?
Currently, our clients are using something like MailChimp or Constant Contact. We do anticipate by the end of this year in integrating mass email. So
Okay.
all of your mass email would be taken and taken care of with the platform.
Now, going back to the CRM thing, this is something I've been investigating lately, is the ability to, once I have an offering, to drop all of my investors that I know that might be interested in that into an actual, funnel or page that I can go to, so I can make sure that I've followed up with each one of them individually if I want to,
Yeah.
So is that something that is kind of in the works as well?
Yeah, right now that really comes down to the reservations.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in version 2 that'll be released next month. It'll actually, the reservations and offerings will be merged together, so that you can do exactly what you're mentioning. You have a list of people that you think are high targets, high likelihoods of investing, kind of the group of people you want to focus your time on. So you'll have the complete list here. You'll see whether they've converted, whether they've actually invested. You can leave notes on each one. So this will actually place notes on each one. You can quick email, and that way you can do what you're saying in terms of trying to manage that process.
That's cool. Now, how do you use this type of a software when you're also using, say, an investor liaison or a capital partner to help kind of, because you had mentioned earlier on that you've helped raise money for other groups and various things like that. So how does the software take into account somebody else's investor that they are going to be, wanting to bring onto the project?
So right now, what we do for our clients who use capital partners is that we go ahead and set them up, the capital partner, with their own, basically their own portal here, their own platform, so they can go ahead and when they're capital raising with their partner, they can see the deal that is being raised money for. That capital partner can register their investors to this. So it would be that capital partner would have their own platform, their own logo, be completely separated from that main sponsor. And what we're doing from a development perspective is really starting to merge those channels, so that there's really, from a capital partner's perspective, some key things you want to be thinking of is, do I want to own this relationship? Do I want to keep the relationship with my investors between me and them? Do I want, like the monthly or quarterly updates funneling through me from my company, or do I want that main sponsor to be emailing them directly? And so that those types of decisions and settings is what the sponsor and that capital partner will have to figure out. As of right now, we treat it separately. So as a capital partner, you have your own platform, you'd register your investors would invest in the deal. Take a look at this, for example. So your investors would invest in the deal, and then from the main sponsor's perspective, they would basically view you as one investor from their end. So the main sponsor wouldn't see necessarily all the individual investors, and it wouldn't be all of those contacts wouldn't be in their platform. They wouldn't be getting emails sent to them.
Okay. So there's not, so whenever, say for example, if I'm the main sponsor on a deal and I'm doing these monthly reportings on the KPIs and stuff like that, I would also have to provide that same data to them, and they'd have to manually enter it themselves as well.
Yeah. If the capital partner wants to own those relationships and manage that communication, then yeah, the capital partner would be in the main sponsor's platform. So the capital partner is going to get that update when the main sponsor makes it. And then it's just a matter of taking that update, putting it into their platform here. Maybe they want to provide some additional details or cater that update. And so they can do that and control that narrative.
Okay. Going back to your process for, talking to investors and initially being, 30, 45 minutes or so, and then kind of getting it down to that streamlined 15 minutes, what are some things that you do prior to that call that kind of let them know a little bit about you as a group? Because, one of the questions that I get quite often is, well, tell me a little about you and your group. And so I basically launch into my whole, presentation, if you will, not really a presentation, but it's over the phone, but, talking to them about, all three of our partners and what we all do and our backgrounds and stuff like that, and our track record and various things. And it does take, 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer to be able to do those. And I've been trying to brainstorming lately about what are some ways to make that time more efficient with being able to spend more time talking about the investor, because it is the purpose of the call is to get to know them a little bit more. And so we've actually put together some videos to actually give to our investors to have them watch them prior to our call, so that they already know about us before we even get on.
Yeah, that's the key, right? So anything you can do to get those investors information prior to that call is going to benefit you. And from our perspective, really all of our leads are coming through our website. So they're visiting us, they're reading about some of our advantages, they're seeing some client testimonials, some track record, some benefits. They can go ahead and take a look and see, what's going on here, what's the mission of this company, who's running it, who are the partners, the bios. And so maybe the timeline of coming together. So that we use our website as much as possible. We have, of course, frequently asked questions here from thousands of calls. These are the ones that we get the most of. So we get these out front. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have media. So we have our press, anything that we've been featured in terms of podcasts or articles are listed here. And then we also have videos as well. So anything that you could do to just get them information, the better. And it's always hard when someone does give you that big of a question in terms of, well, tell me about your company type thing. Mm-hmm. But when I do get a generalized question like that, I try to be pointed, be very very, very 1,000-foot approach, and then really let them drive the narrative in terms of what maybe I didn't talk about that they were looking to. They ask that question, they have a few things in mind of what they're wanting to hear, and so by giving them a 1,000-foot approach and getting it back to them, then they're going to ultimately drive into exactly what they want to know.
That's a good point. Now, a couple of last questions here. And if anybody else is live here and has any questions, you can certainly type them into the Q&A box there or type them onto the comments over there on Facebook, on the Facebook live feed that we have going as well. How long does it take to enter a new offering? Like how much time does that actually take to put in all the fields and upload the pictures and make sure that they're proper and, also, uploading all the documents and various things like that?
So if you have the pictures and you have the documents, then it's probably a 15-minute process.
Okay.
Really, the biggest thing where you get creative is when you're adding your description, your summary. You can embed video and do different formatting and get neat and pretty there. We tend to keep that offering memorandum, that presentation as an attachment, as a PDF. Try to stay pretty pointed on our summary, and yeah, it all goes pretty quickly, pretty seamlessly.
And have you had any feedback from the investors' perspective about maybe some issues with logins or losing passwords or getting set up or uploading documents and that piece of it?
Yeah, that is the key, right? You don't want to use an online solution that is confusing investors or creating barriers. And so over the last 6 years of raising capital online, we've experienced all those challenges. And through taking almost 300, actually it's about 300 individual investors over about 500 individual investments. And so things like when they register for the first time, if they don't have an investment with you, where do you want them? You want them by default on your active opportunity. Like if you're raising money and they log in and they don't have an investment with you, they should be on your investment, right? You don't want to throw them to a dashboard or throw them to a page, because most likely if they're logging in, they want to invest with you, put the investment in front of them. And so it's little things like this that go a long way from an investor focus. And that's one of the biggest things that we try to, literally when we raise money, we publish, like I mentioned kind of in the presentation, we have this lead up, we publish it, and the investments come in. They roll in very naturally. There may be a few phone calls with some people who are investing very large amounts of money, or just have particular questions that weren't addressed. But by and large, it's a very automated process that just happens. You don't want investors saying, I can't, it won't let me invest, or I can't find the investment, or, how do I invest? And so those are through experience that we've built the platform to address.
What kind of support does your service provide when you have investors that do have issues like that?
So the investors typically get in touch with the sponsor directly. So our development team doesn't really have communications with your investors. Usually if it's not resolved by the sponsor doesn't know, then they'll get in touch with us. But quite honestly, on SyndicationPro, $40 million has been raised in 2019, and we have not had one instance of investor getting to the point where the sponsor didn't know, where the sponsor's asking us, like, wait, how do they do that, or this is an issue.
So I have one last question here, and then we'll wrap things up. Julio is asking on our Facebook feed here, who built your website and hosts it, and what is the cost to approximately build a website like that one? Because obviously we're not talking about building out the website, we're talking about the actual platform. And it looks to me like your software is it a plugin for WordPress?
Yeah, this website's built on WordPress. It very well, just as easily could have been built on something like Squarespace. Very easy drag and drop website. The real complication or the sophisticated mechanisms that comes into the login or registration functionality, where you're actually signing up users, and that's on the software side. So our website is a WordPress, built out on WordPress. We did use an agency called Armentum, who built this out. We started working with them 4 or 5 years ago. If I was to build out another website, and actually we have built out a handful of websites, especially for like property facing websites, we like Squarespace, just in terms of, the hosting, the domain, everything's there, drag and drop. And we use freelancers on sites like Upwork or Fiverr, who specialize with Squarespace to help. You could put up a site that's going to be the same functionality as this for less than $1,000 on Squarespace.
And the SyndicationPro software, what kind of a backbone does it have? So
we're building that out on JavaScript. So React and Node, and with the AWS hosting.
Okay. And is it also a plugin for WordPress, or how does it actually connect into the website?
So right now it's hosted on a subdomain. So something like invest.hopefolio.com, or you could get creative with partner or whatever. So it'll sit on a subdomain. With version 2, there'll also be an option that it will be hosted on our domain as well. So yeah, we'll kind of those two options are available.
Okay, great. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for your insights here and providing a lot of information. I know, I learned a lot, and I always like having, different hosts on here, or different co-hosts. We kind of learn from different aspects of various things of how we do things. And it looks like your software is quite detailed there. Looking forward to seeing what version 2 looks like. And, once you have version 2 out there, we'd love to be able to get you back on to do another webinar, or maybe give us a little bit of a demo as well.
Yeah. Let's stay in touch, Dan. I thank you for the opportunity. And for anyone out there that might have not got a question answered that you might have were looking for, or want to reach out to me, got my email here, my phone number, or just looking for some advice on syndications, more than happy to get in touch. So please do so.
Well, Jacob, thank you so much for your time, and please do stay in touch, and we'll have you back on for the version 2 demo.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Bye-bye.